Hi guys! All right, so today I want to talk about the signs that you get throughout your life. And this really hit me because recently there have been dragonflies literally everywhere in my life. They're coming into my house. And I just couldn't, I was like, I know it's spring and maybe that's like a dragonfly thing, but for them to keep flying into my house, and I've had to rescue like 3 or 4 of them out of my house and take them back outside, and then they fly right back in. So I decided to look it up because I wanted to know what the meaning of the dragonfly is, because I really do believe like I was getting a sign. Right. Like, you need to pay attention to this. And so I looked it up, and a dragonfly means change is coming. You're going to be called to transform, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I just think it's these signs, the way I look at them, it really is, I feel, divine intervention. I mean, I think this is going to be a little bit more of a spiritual episode. And so for me, about 3 years ago, I was really struggling, and my girlfriend gave me a book that really turned things around for me and how I processed signs. And this is the book. It's called Change Me Prayers. It's by Tasha Silver. It's called The Hidden Powers of Spiritual Surrender. And throughout this entire book, she talks about the signs that she's been given in her life. And you know, I just want to read this one because I think it's really funny. It's titled, Who Saves Your Butt? Okay, she says, you never know who might arrive and when. I was thinking about this as I finished the stories for this book. Since every step of this manuscript, I've been getting editing help from my best friend Amy from upstate New York. She dropped into my life out of nowhere many years ago in an empty parking lot behind a yoga center. She had overheard me saying I was driving to Manhattan, so she just knocked on my window and asked to jump in. I was like, who is this petite, wacky artist in the wire rim glasses and turquoise cap? 25 years later, she's editing all of my books. Honestly, like, she's my behind-the-scenes secret weapon. Everyone needs another set of eyes that can catch what you might miss. I know God sent her because she not only has one of the most creative, divergent minds I've ever encountered, as well as a kind and generous heart, but she can also make me laugh until I wet my pants. For someone like me, that's sort of critical. She goes on, she says, she makes me think of the incredible ways the universe sends help if you are truly willing and open. I didn't go looking for her. She jumped in my freaking car. Every day I feel such gratitude for her. Now, how many of us would have a sign like that and say, get out of my car, you crazy lady? You know, but she went with it. And now this woman has basically changed her life and is editing all of her books for her.
Unbelievable.
But I just think, like, in this book has so many of those kind of signs. And then at the end of each thing is a little prayer. I don't know if you can see that, the little blue box. And it's just sort of like the change me prayers that she has for each of these. And she says a little prayer, you know, of how you can say these prayers, and they will start to open you to the signs from the universe.
Right.
So
that's amazing. Well, so what she's really talking about in this book, and I think it's it's mostly where I am in my life, is being able to trust the things that fall into your lap and into your life, and being able to trust those signs and know that, okay, this is right where I'm supposed to be in this moment. That's a big spiritual principle, like trusting where you're at, which is really hard when you're not where you want to be.
Right. And the signs aren't always good signs. I mean, sometimes they can be something really challenging that happens in your life, and maybe that's the sign of something that needs to be changed or something that you need to work on. You know, so the signs aren't always good. They're not always dragonflies and women named Amy. You know, they can be really hard, difficult things that you're going through.
Well, you know what you just reminded me of, even just kind of something that was going on for me today, is that when something's really a sign, it keeps coming back. And so if you're one of those people that's watching this kind of going, oh, this is airy fairy. That's one of the neat things about it, is like, if you are being shown something, you will be shown it in every area of your life. And I have so many clients that say that to me. They say, you're the fourth person today that said that. I think I need to really look at that because, the dry cleaner said something about that, and then my boyfriend said something about that, my parents, and now you. And so it's so interesting. I love to watch that when people say that, because what it tells me is these signs are real, that the universe is kind of working together, conspiring to get you something that's critical information. And you will probably the first time are like, especially if it's not desirable. It's like, I don't want to mess with that. I probably should, but I'm not going to. And then the next time it comes up, and then the third time it comes up. So I didn't even realize that something I was walking through today, that I had received the second or third sign today, because I ignored the first two, which is not like me, but just things, if it's not fun, it's like, I don't know that I want to do that.
We don't always want to pay attention to the not fun signs.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
This really came up in my life about a year ago when my mom and I read this book probably 2 or 3 years ago, but I really did start to really live the principles of it, and I started saying the Change Me prayers, and it's Change Me prayers mean you're trying to change your perception or change the way you're thinking. And so you want kind of these Change Me prayers kind of help you change and become more open-minded and willing to see the things that maybe aren't so tangible. So my mom and I went to Italy a year ago. Yes. And one of the things that I said going into that trip was, I'm going to book the place to stay. I'm going to book the airline tickets. But I'm not going to make a lot of plans other than that. I'm just going to follow the signs of the universe. Oh, wow. And when you really open yourself to that, it's amazing how the things pop in. We had the most unbelievable trip because we just went with the signs that were presented in front of us. So we got to Positano on the Amalfi Coast, which is the most stunning place. We had no plans when we got there, and the first night we went to have a drink at a little bar in the village, and we met this guy who happens to be with this family that owns this big yachting company there. And he hooked us up to get on this yacht to go to Capri the next day. We paid €70 each. Now normally this would cost thousands of dollars. Wow. But because we met this guy, then he was able to hook us up with the great rate. We got on this great boat. Wow. And I mean, it was just little things like that. When we left, because I decided to drive in Italy, which I was terrified, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be okay. And I said a little prayer when we left the Amalfi Coast, because the roads are this tiny. We almost got pushed off the road by these big buses that carry all these tourists come into the villages and out, and they basically push everyone else off the road. And we almost got pushed off the road on the way in. So on the way out, I just said a little prayer. I'm like, please, please don't let us encounter any of these big buses. Right. Well, we start driving, and all of a sudden, in front of us is one of these big buses. And when it's in front of you, it's basically clearing the way for you to get out of town without any problems. And so the bus was there the entire way until the road opened up, and then the bus turned off, and we got out of town with no problems because the bus was there right in the beginning. So I really believe, when you're open to it and when you allow things to happen into your life and you really believe that good things will happen, that you will start to see the signs, And I think listening, and so people are probably thinking well, how does this present itself? I mean, one of the ways that for me that things present themselves is that I'll have a thought that feels like it's not mine. It's like, call this person. And it's like, oh, why would I? And then you get into your stuff. Well, I don't have time to call this. Right. But it's like, I hear people share stories like that all the time. It's like they have that feeling that they should call, but then they ignore this, that, and the other thing. And then, of course, when they do call, that person's like, I'm so glad you called. This is going on for me. And how did you know to call me? And it's like just being tuned to the universe and listening. When the indicator for me is that the thought is not mine. I didn't think to just call Suzanne. I just saw her yesterday. It's ridiculous. And then all of a sudden I call, or if I ignore the sign and then another sign comes up and I'll run into somebody, they're like, have you seen Suzanne? And you're like,
Okay.
Right.
You know, so it's just fascinating how, again, the universe will conspire, that it's just about being in that a little more meditative state where you can respond and you can listen and you can trust that if you listen to that and do the next thing, that things are going to go in a really positive way.
Yeah.
And that's what you're describing, that when you follow and you just are in that spiritual mode, it's the perfect thing and it's the perfect answer.
Yeah, I feel like you get signs a lot, and you're very open to the signs that you get. But I mean, I think that's what this is all about, is about getting into that place, because you can't just say, okay, show me a sign, God. You know, it's about really getting into that place. And tapping into, you know, your intuition, because that's what it is. It's your intuition. It's your gut.
Yes.
And my friends Andy and Lee, who have Spread Happy, their favorite thing is showing a snow globe. And they say, you know, when you shake it up and you have all this noise going on, you're not going to be able to tap into that. But when the snow goes to the bottom and you just have yourself, you know, you really can hear what you need to hear.
I'm so interested to hear that as a snow globe, because I learned about that years ago. We called it the muddy jar. Yeah. And if you want the reminder, you go fill a jar, you put mud in it, and you put water on the top, and then you shake it. And when you shake it, you can't see anything. Right. But when you set it down on the counter for 2 hours and you come back, all the mud settles and the water separates and everything's clear. And so that's another big thing about spirituality, is if you can get quiet and watch and listen, then there'll be clarity, which everybody's always wanting clarity.
Yeah, you know, we ask a million different questions to a million different people and get to give us the answer, when in reality we always have the answer.
Yeah, it's right there.
You know, I love Gabby Bernstein too. She wrote a book, The Universe Has Your Back, which is another really great book. And in that, she talks about how her and her husband were looking for a home, and they thought they live in New York. They thought they wanted to be in the city because they love the city life, and they wanted, you know, they were looking for homes in the city. And she, you know, basically said, I don't know which of these homes to choose. She felt overwhelmed, and she just didn't know. Right. None of them felt right. And she'd actually said a little prayer and said, Dear Lord, just please give me a sign and let me see. I don't remember what animal it was, like a bee. If I see a bee in a home, then I know that that's the home I'm supposed to be in. Wow. So their real estate agent said, why don't you, there's this home in the suburbs that I want you to see. And she was like, we're not living in the suburbs. We're city people. We don't want to live in the suburbs. But she agreed to go see this home. Right. And it was apparently like the most amazing home. She walked in, and as she was leaving, there was like a painting of a bee.
Wow.
And she talks about how she got chills because she knew that was her home. Yeah. And she never would have in a million years, you know, picked the suburb. And she said she loves her home. She's so happy there. They love being out in the, you know, in the woods and not being in the city anymore. So I just thought that, you know, that just goes to show you, like, you know, how it works, how it really works.
Right. Because it feels like, to me, the signs are the universe's way of letting you know you're on the path that I want you on, or you're on the right path. I know when my husband and I met, we were both really confused by how quickly we fell in love, and we had both been divorced, and he was single for 8 years, I was single for 6. I mean, dating and in relationships here, whatever, but not like remarried or any of that. And so when we met, we were both blown away at how quickly we both felt like, oh my gosh, you're what I've been looking for. So we almost started to doubt it, because it's like, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I didn't think this would happen, that I'd actually find someone that I want to marry and spend the rest of my life with. And so we started to compile the signs, and it was mind-blowing. Just, they were the silliest little things, but just be having a conversation about our kids. And well, the first sign for us is like, oh, I have a daughter. Oh, I have a daughter. You know, we're chatting about our daughters. Oh, well, for my daughter's birthday, and our daughter's birthdays were 1 day apart. They were both art kids. They both went to the School of the Arts. It was just frightening, right? And we're continuing to talk just about silliness. Oh, my kids love when I cook this for them. We had the same favorite dinner that we cooked for our children, down to the Swiss Knorr Béarnaise sauce packet that we bought. for the filet and the asparagus and the, like, we had the exact same, or whatever the vegetable, it was like the exact same dinner, the exact same Béarnaise sauce. Like, I use it all the time. Are you kidding? The Nor Swiss. I mean, silly stuff. But by the time we got done, we had like a page and a half of just things
in common.
Were just absolute clicks. And so we wrote them down because they were so powerful to us, you know? Just things like that just let you know when you're going, oh, I'm not sure about this. It's like, no, this is kind of right where, and here we are 9 years later, and definitely a direct hit in the sense that his kids love me. I love his kids. My kids love his kids. I mean, they're all close. They gel well together. They're very, they enjoy each other. They love each other, which you don't always see that in blended families. Sometimes there's conflict. So everything that was like, is everything going to be okay? Yes.
Right.
You know, and that's what we were being shown. And 9 years later, it's like, it's actually panning, you know?
And like what Tasha was writing in here about people coming into your life, like, I honestly believe that people come into your lives for either to be a healer or to show you a lesson.
Reason, season, or a lifetime. My favorite poem.
And so, you know, like, you came into my life, and I feel like you're a healer, and you're a healer in my life because you're one of those people that I can really talk to, and, you know, I feel like we mesh well together, you know, and you have to be open to those kind of things, you know, that people will come into your life, and you know, if you're open to them either teaching you something or helping you heal, that it will be, you know, it'll be pretty obvious.
Why does it end the whole taping thing?
That's okay. We'll just,
because you're on this phone instead of the other one.
No, I think it would end either way.
But you usually do it on the other phone.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the phone I usually do it on, the other phone. But for some reason, my calls still come through on here for some reason, even though this is not hooked up anymore. I know. Is that crazy? And I get text still on here.
That's so weird.
I know.
I hope you're not paying for two.
I know, right? No, I don't think I am.
It's $260 for one phone. It's crazy.
Right. So I got a phone call and my video just stopped, but we're going to pick it back up to where we were.
So I was telling you how much I love you.
Aww,
and I was telling you that you're a bright light, and that I know that when I spend time with you, I'm going to leave feeling so good. Right. You're just such a bright light. And the other thing is that you're so validating. I don't care what I say, you validate, you know, and you say things like, no, you're not crazy. Like, of course you feel that way. And it makes sense that you feel that way. Right. So it definitely is meant to be.
It's so funny that you say that, because I really feel like when I was younger, I used to be so black and white. Like, there was a right and a wrong. There's a black and a white. But just, you know, in the last several years, I've really started to know that everything is gray, you know, that there is no right or wrong. There is no, I mean, obviously there's right and wrong, you know.
Don't kill anybody and tell them that we said there's no right and wrong.
Right. Don't do that. Don't do that. But, you know, there's just so much in our lives that, that I think that, that there is no right or wrong answer. You know, it's just where we are in that time of our life. You know, I think people look back and say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I wouldn't have married that person, or I wish I wouldn't have, you know, taken that job, or whatever it is. And I really believe that all of those decisions were the right decisions at that moment in your life, and they got you to where you are.
I believe everything's happening exactly as it's supposed to in this moment, and that it just leads you to the next step, And it's so interesting when you talk about that, because as you're talking, I'm going, well, this is why we're such close friends, because we've had such similar paths. Because I remember it was a joke in my family. I was so black and white that I didn't own anything other than black or white shoes. Wow. Literally, or clothing was all pretty monochromatic. Yeah. And when I started doing therapy, and kind of the therapist is like, no, there's gray. I'm like, no, there's not. And you're wrong. What I started to do is I started to mimic that in my attire. And so interesting now, I've got orange shoes. I've got aquamarine blue shoes, you know what I mean? And it's like, but I watched myself expand and really go through that process. I was very rigid. Yeah. You know, that's what I call it, is I was very left brain rigid. There's a right and a wrong way. You should, you shouldn't. And actually it was a seminar that changed my life, and it was on right brain and left brain. And I went to the seminar, and they explained how right brain people are like, I'll see it 220-ish, you know, like they're not rigid. They're very, artistic and big picture and, you know, kind of go with the flow, and they see all the shades of gray. Whereas left brain people are very detail oriented, very black and white, can be very rigid. And I literally, up until that seminar, I was probably 25 years old. I really thought I knew how to do it the right way.
We all do, don't we?
And like, I'll pray for you. Like, bless her heart, like she doesn't know.
She's doing it so wrong.
Yeah, she just doesn't know that the rules are the rules. And it was, I can't tell you, again, talking about right time, right place, because I was working for a nursing home. Awful. Like, I love the people, but corporate, awful place for me, awful situation, but they made me go to that seminar. It changed my life forever, because what I realized is there's no right and wrong, should and shouldn'ts. Like, there's this whole palette of colors, and that it's what's right for you, right? And 2:20 for one person is fine, and 2:00 is fine for another. And like, that we also have to live in this gray, and we have to live in the world with people that don't see everything the way we do. I'm so much happier now that I don't think that you're wrong,
right,
and I'm right, you know, and that there's a right and a wrong way. It's like, no, you're more eclectic, you're more right brain, I'm more left brain, and we really can help balance each other.
And you know what also is coming up for me when you talk about that is judgment. You know, that really, when you stop, I mean, it's so hard not to do, but really look at how you're viewing people, situations. Hold on, phone calls.
We're ringing and dinging and starting over.
Yeah, when you start to look at how you see a situation, and don't judge it. Don't judge a person. Don't judge a situation. Just allow it to be. It's really hard with people with me. I think I sometimes get in that judgment where I'm like, oh, look at them, or,
what is she thinking?
Right. What are they doing?
Right.
And every situation, every person is different, and how they view the world is different, and how their life circumstances, how they were raised, how they grew up, where they grew up. It can change everything, and it doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong,
right,
or you're right and they're wrong.
The best teachers for this are children, right?
Yeah. Gosh.
Because if you think you've got it all figured out and your way's the best way, you will get a child that is completely opposite of you, and you don't want to shame them to their toes.
Or exactly the same and triggers you. And triggers you.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's really such a great teacher to realize, like, there's a whole gray area.
Yeah. So pay attention to the signs, ask for signs, and then be open to them. And I really would, if you're not sure what, if you still are struggling with how to make that happen, or the tools to make that happen, get this book, Change Me Prayers, and I know it will help you. I'm telling you, this is probably one of my favorite. I have thousands of self-help books. This is the one that was a real game changer for me.
And I'm going to either jack it from Suzanne when she's not looking today, or purchase it myself in the next...
Okay, so you're going to try to steal my book?
Yes, I'm going to steal Suzanne's book today, or purchase it, and then I'll get back to you on how it's changing my life.
What I love about it is it's quick little stories with the Change Me prayer at the end. So it's such an easy read.
There's no excuse.
She's actually got 2 books. This was her second. Her first was called Outrageous Openness. So so both of them are good. I will let you borrow it.
Oh,
here, consider it mine, but you gotta return it.
I was perfectly prepared to stick it in my bag when you weren't looking, but I would love to take it legally.
But go get Change Me Prayers if you have any questions about, how to open to the signs of the universe. And it will really lay it out for you. It will help you. And so will The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. Those are 2 really good books to help you kind of recognize the signs in your life.
Perfect.
Okay, so don't forget, we're up on podcast now. So if you can't watch us, if you don't have the time to watch our videos, you can listen in your car, when you're waiting in the doctor's office. Put in your iPods and just listen to us. Not your iPods, your earpods.
Earbuds.
Earbuds, whatever you call them.
She's making me feel good today, because I was coming here earlier thinking I was crazy and I can't remember, and now she's saying stuff like that. So we're just in it together.
So download. You can go into the little purple podcast icon on your iPhone and search What Your Friends Won't Tell You. Also, if you like it, 5-star our podcast. And you can subscribe as well. Subscribe to our YouTube.
To YouTube, yes.
Because all of our episodes are now up on YouTube. All of our episodes also on our website, which is the acronym of What Your Friends Won't Tell You. WYF. WTY. WYFWTY.com. That's our website. All right, and thank you all for watching our videos, for liking them, for sharing them. If you know anyone who needs to be open to the signs of the universe,
yes. and
send them this video.
Send us your questions. We love ideas.
Yeah, comments on any kind of show topics you want us to talk about. Yep. All right, everyone, have a great day.
Bye.